And so it's going to be a very, very clear choice. What are you choosing? Are you choosing mayhem or are you choosing equilibrium?
Still and silent, calm before the storm, gold and diamond, jewels behind the throne, into the night, out of the dark, take to the sky, chasing the stars, all that we said, all that we are, waiting to fly, this is the start, hide and seek, reason and rhyme, grand and glorious, living the dream, yours and mine, euphoria.
Recording. All right, let's just go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to What on New Earth. And that's not my channel name anymore. That's not my channel name anymore. God. I'm having so much fun with my life right now, though. I just don't, nothing's getting me down. All right. Hi, guys. Welcome back to True Sacred Union. I am Debbie Dubois, and I am here with my very good friend, Hamish Bartholomeaus. Hey, Hamish.
Hi there.
How are you today?
I'm very well. I'm going very well today. Riding the waves, surfing the waves. If not gracefully, then at least I'm still on them.
Yeah, I'm wondering, it's like I feel like I'm riding the surfboard, but it's really bumpy. It's like I'm not falling off the surfboard, but it's
Yeah.
like it's been kind of
Thinking,
rocky.
I'm thinking I'm thinking if this is the flow state, then I'm glad I'm not out of the flow state because it'd be really rough then. Like,
Oh my gosh. I know, I know. Yeah, and I just put out a video last night about like how important it was for me to I called it the lotus position. It's like when you're feeling really centered and you're sitting in that position where you're just not gonna get rocked and you refuse to get rocked. But I mean, it's like we were just trying to get on here and we were having all kinds of audio issues and stuff. And it's like this is what we're dealing with. Do you notice?
yep,
Are you
yep.
noticing the structures?
Yeah. And it's like you just, I mean, you can get bent out of shape about it, but it's just not going to help at all. Like the structures are absolutely falling apart,
Yeah.
and we're kind of it. Yeah, the metaphor that's always stuck in my mind that I was told it wasn't mine, and it's a brilliant one. I don't know if you or anyone knows about Leathermans, like the pliers with the knives, but like a Swiss Army knife, basically.
Okay, yeah.
It's like trying to fix an aeroplane with a Swiss Army knife while it's flying, but you're the pilot. Like,
Oh,
have
that
fun.
sounds fun.
Yeah, because that feels like what we're doing. Like it really does. We're kind of in it, and these structures are falling apart, and they need to. I mean, we can all agree that these structures are pretty shitty, and they need to go completely. Um, but
But
we're trying to build new ones at the same time, and then we don't even know what we're trying to build, and it's like you don't even need to know. Just relax, and it'll just work through you, and it'll happen. You're like, are you kidding me? Just relax. Like what? That's yeah. So it's pretty wild.
well, I have a friend of mine who's dealing with a situation. I know she won't mind me saying this, but she took advantage of a savings offer with a bank, major bank. Okay, we're talking one of the big banks.
Mm.
And she put her money in and she said she had that feeling like in the back of her mind and she didn't listen because she's like, well, what could go wrong? It's a main bank. She has
Yeah.
been trying to get her money out of the bank. They will not wire. They were going to mail her a check, then they didn't end up doing it. She could only withdraw a small amount of money at a time. And this has been going on for a couple of weeks, and today she was just like at her wit's end. And this is the kind of structure we're talking about. We're talking about our main banks cannot send a wire transfer, and then she was trying to get the wire transfer to go through, and basically something came up, and there was an alert on her account, so they wouldn't allow a wire. First of all, they didn't have the wire. Oh no, we don't wire. It's like, you're a
Yeah.
bank. Who does wire if you don't wire? I mean,
Yep.
like, this is getting
Yeah.
ridiculous, folks.
Yeah. But it's like, the banks don't have any money unless there are businesses going to the bank and putting their money in, like this person did. Like, the banks don't have any money, and they're not allowed to print the money. They've got to go to the thieves and the crooks who print the money and try and get more out, but they won't give any to them because they're too busy trying to give it to someone else. And it's just like, we know all of this stuff needs to die, but
Yeah.
it's messy. It's really messy when it dies, and the bank has got to collapse out there, and that's really messy when it's got your money in it or someone else's, like your neighbor's money in it, right? Like, just go, oh, well, I took all my money out of the bank and I put it in something else, or I put it under the pillow, and I'm fine. You're like, yeah, you are fine. Your neighbor's money's in the bank. Now their three children, they don't have access to any money, and now they're starving. Now what are you going to do? Like, it's not as simple as I'm just going to look after myself. But the other bit I wanted to say was the bank has to collapse out there, but what about the bank in here? Like, like
Inner work.
inner work. There's still somewhere in there where you are like, that system's in there unless you've actually actively pulled it out. That system's probably going to be in there.
Well, and she mentioned that she didn't listen to that inner instinct. And I would bet to say that things like this are happening to us to teach us to slow down and listen to our inner being. I countless times in my life did I not listen. Countless times. I mean, how many of us could raise our hand and say I've always listened to myself? No. We don't listen to ourselves. We charge ahead. Especially, I've got at work, I had the nickname of Miss Clickety Click because I'm just really fast. Doom, 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 doom. Well, this person is faster than me. Do, 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 right? And so I think that what I have found, and that's kind of what I was saying in the video from yesterday, is that part of this process of stability and really anchoring in is slowing the down, just slowing down, because it takes
Yep.
time to see what comes in front of you and really look at it. Why is this sitting here in front of me? What am I getting from the universe on this? And we can save ourselves so much time and aggravation, and a lot of the stuff that will set us off and ruin a whole day could be avoided if we just slowed down and we stopped and we looked at what is this really for, and then usually allow it to, okay, let's go. Let's just let that
Yeah.
go because I know what that's for, and I'm dealing with that. Okay, I see that. All right, now it's gone, and then it's gone for good, as opposed to cycling back, and dealing with it day after day after day.
Yeah, you only need to be told once rather than you're so fast you didn't pick up the first 5 times you were told, even though it was a pain in your ass because you still had to deal with it, but you didn't get the message. A friend said to me the other day, she'd got a speeding fine or a parking fine or something, and she's like, if I'm manifesting my own reality, like, why in the world would I manifest a speeding fine or a parking fine? Like, what am I trying to tell? And like, I don't know about the United States, but in Australia, it's like 5 kilometers over the speed limit, it's like $350. They skin you. Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
That's
And like 4 points off your license, and you've only got 12, and then you haven't got a license. Like, it's getting pretty savage at the the moment.
they don't have any money from anywhere else. They got to take
Exactly.
it from you.
Exactly. Like, and I thought about it, and there are a lot of ways you could roll with that, but I thought back to 8 months ago when I got done for speeding, and it was like 3 or 4 kilometers over, and it was the end of the month, and it was a motorbike cop, like it was a shark, and he was just trolling. He was just looking for money, basically. And I've never had a fine never had any issue with the police. Like I'm off the police radar. Never, ever, ever, ever. And I'm 40 something, right?
Right.
And this bike cop just gets me randomly in this part of town. Like he's highway patrol. There are no highway patrol here. He's just trawling like a shark, looking. I'm going, what is the message here? This is ridiculous. And the message was pay attention. You think you're safe on a back road or off the main street in a back road going around the back in your own town? No, you're not. We're not. That's not where we are anymore. Like everything's up for grabs. Pay attention. And, I was speeding. I was coming downhill and around a corner. It was a perfect spot to grab someone. I just wasn't paying attention. And if I had have been paying more attention, it would have happened that he wouldn't have got me. He would have got someone else, or he wouldn't have even. And so,
Yep.
yeah, you can whinge about the money and the this and the that, but at the end of the day, I wasn't paying enough attention. I was thinking, I put my game face on out here, but then there are places where I'm safe. And the message was, no, there's nowhere where you're safe anymore. The game is on everywhere. So just pay attention.
Yeah.
And it was really, really good message because I have been paying attention in all areas, everywhere in my life, and it's been very, very beneficial.
I think that's what it's boiling down to actually is consciousness, right? I mean, isn't this what we're going through a consciousness awakening? We're awakening to greater levels of consciousness. And I think where we're finding our problems is where we're not maybe allowing ourselves to, I want to say, focus on that with consciousness. There's certain things like that we do, like you said, driving.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of us don't go into like some kind of trance? I know that's when I get my best ideas, probably because I'm in some kind of theta wave or whatever.
Yep.
And it's like, oh,
Yep.
I've got all these ideas. I can do a great video while I'm driving. But
Some
this
people
is,
do.
they do, right? But it does seem like we are being asked right now to really slow down and be conscious.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what I kind of went into this tailspin, not a real tailspin, but you know what I mean. I simulated going down the path just to see what was going on there as I'd been listening to someone talk about what's coming up and future predictions and, when Trump gets back in and what the money markets will do and the crypto versus the money and the gold and the real estate and the controllers and what's happening in Europe and this whole layer cake of stuff that we're dealing with. And
Never fails. He's always
never fails.
he wants the camera.
Camera
Jasper,
hold, camera
stop
hold.
it. He did that last night when I was recording.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's perfect. And I kind of let myself go down that road of like, well, then you'd need to plan, right? You'd need to work out where are you going to put your money, what are you going to do with it, and real estate. Like if you're renting, where should you rent? Do we need to move to high ground because the tidal wave's coming? Am I in the correct town? Is my town descending or ascending? What, like all of this stuff.
My goodness.
And I just kind of ran through all of that and went, that'd drive you nuts. Like trying to get in front of any of those games at the moment would drive you completely bonkers because there's so much on the table. And I think the answer actually is what a very good friend of mine had through in a session. So they're her words, not mine. They came through her, and it was, you will be looked after if you pay attention.
Yes.
If you can't pay attention and you get distracted and you're not going to listen to your inner guidance, I can't help you. And you're going to have to go on your own.
Wow.
But if you pay attention, I will look after you. You will be looked after
Right.
as long as you can pay attention. And that's what it comes back to. It's like, I don't know where to put your money. I don't know what to do with your crypto. I don't know what to do with real estate. I literally, I don't know. And at this stage, I also don't care. I'm waiting until I get told what to do by me. I'm paying attention. And when the thing comes in, I'll do it. And if the thing says, pack all your stuff up and move up the mountain 1,000 meters up because of the waves coming, like, I'm not just going to pack everything up and run. Like, I'm going to check. I'm going to like sit and go, is this me? Is this like, I'll do all the stuff because I'm not just waiting for a random thought to get voiced to scold into my head. But
Right.
I am paying attention, and I'm watching everything. I'm paying attention because that really rang true for me. If you pay attention, you will be looked after.
Yeah, because you're going to be tuned in and listening to the radio station that tells you what to do.
Tells you what to do next. And if you get
Right.
distracted, then
You're going to miss it.
how can you be helped if you got distracted? That's on you. Like
It's like,
that's literally your responsibility. Your only responsibility here is to pay attention, and that's it.
well, just imagine if there's a radio program that's going on that's telling you everything you need to know about anything, and you just decide, I'll turn the radio off and I'll go over here and listen to my rock and roll in my headphones. You know what I'm saying? You're
What are you gonna do
missing.
with that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a really
yeah,
good point. You know, it's funny when you said that, when you were talking about going through that planning and what if and what if, that is, I'm not sure that I reported in on this on here on True Sacred Union. I know I did on the chat where I went through this huge like blip on the screen where I was like, oh my God, what if I'm not ascending? I think I mentioned that in my video last night. What if I'm not ascending? You know, like I'm not in this construct. I don't have anything lined up in this construct. I got no safety net, you know, and I started going through all of that. But it was almost
if
like,
we're here for another 50 years, I'm in big trouble.
oh, me too. Well, and then my one of my partners, one of my business partners says, yeah, well, better get ready for 20 to 30 more years of this. I mean, he goes back and forth on whether or not, you know, I know essentially he knows we're ascending, but he gets that bug just like we all do at some point. But I was like, oh, hell no. I can't. I will not be able to. There's no
But
support system.
but that's the thing is now you know because you
Yeah.
took the time to slow down and listen. Now you
Right.
know you actually can. You
You're
can do
right.
another 20 years.
You know what? Thank you. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and you don't know where it's going to come from. You don't know where the work could come from. You don't know where the money would come from. You don't know where the next house is going. You don't know, and that doesn't matter as long as you pay attention. But it's like paying attention is simple, but it isn't easy
Oh,
because we've got
it's
so
not.
many distractions.
We're like toddlers. We are like toddlers, or
Yeah,
we're like
yeah,
squirrel, dog,
but we're
squirrel.
like toddlers where all the shelving at knee height is covered in candy and donuts and like little bottles of vodka and scotch and stuff. Like we might be toddlers, but like the room has been set up to deliberately spike us, basically.
Absolutely. That's what the
So,
whole world is about at this point. I mean, that seems like that was the dark's agenda. Let's just distract the shit out of them, and they'll just miss it. You know, they'll miss the ascension. They'll miss the wake
absolutely.
up call signals. Unfortunately, that's really not possible. Um, you know, as distracted as people get, the higher self really steps in and takes a baseball bat to you. If you're just gonna be like, boom, and you
Yep.
will wake up. And I think that the severity of situations that we find ourselves in is telling you how hard the universe is trying to get a message to you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And it can be, and that doesn't mean you're not being targeted. And that doesn't mean this isn't a hell realm or a prison planet. And that doesn't mean that you're not deliberately being sabotaged by other things. What that means is your higher self let you get sabotaged. Think about that. Like, you could have got the message or the warning, and maybe you did get the message and the warning, but you didn't listen to it. You could have got the message, and the message could have been more insistent, but it wasn't. And this thing got through to the keeper. Why? Why was it allowed to go through?
why do you think?
Because you've got to get woken up at some stage, right? And
There you
if
go.
the alarm clocks, if the birds aren't going to do it, and the sunlight's not going to do it, and the alarm clock's not going to do it, then someone's going to dump a bucket of water on your head because you've got to get woken up.
With ice.
And with ice, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's not fun. We've all had that. It's not fun, but hey, you woke up
Right.
afterwards, and then you got on with what you were meant to be doing. So
Well,
yeah,
I
it does.
thought, yeah.
Yeah, you go.
No, I was just going to say that's what I thought about, in these circumstances when you have situations, and this has been going on for a long time. I mean, isn't this what the awakening process has been?
Mm.
I know that, like, even being True Sacred Union, the catalytic heart awakening process, I mean, I had to get hit over the head many, 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 and I'll say many, many, many more times before I
Yeah.
got out of patterns that I could not see. I
Yeah.
mean, and the thing is that the beauty of it all is that it really didn't have anything to do with the other person. It had to do with a pattern of imperfection in the planet that I was just wrapped up in, like, tangled
Mm.
in the spider web. And
Yeah.
so I had to find out how I had to get hit many, many, many times before I really woke up to what it means to stand in your own power and be your own sovereign being on a day to day, moment by moment basis. And
Mm.
that was one of the hardest lessons I ever had to learn. But I know it's not just the catalytic heart awakening, it's the state of humankind in our planet. Until they step into their own empowerment and they realize it's we really have been walking. When we think of sleeping, it's like we're in this state where we're just not paying attention, right? Because we're sleepwalking. And so we just
Mm.
go through life, and what's so beautiful now is what I'm seeing is as people start to wake up, they're really starting to go, "Whoa, I was in this relationship and I was doing this stuff, and what the hell was I thinking?" I mean, like this is how I know, like when we get into that moment where I'm like, it's not
Yeah.
happening. What's gonna
Yeah.
happen? It always goes back to that. It always goes back to, oh, just look around you. Just look
Yeah.
around you. People are starting to
Yeah.
pay attention.
They are. They are. And and I mean, we can be even more charitable, I think, and because there were people who were sleepwalking deliberately with their eyes shut, but then there were people who had like the augmented reality glasses on where they could see, but then it was overlaid with all this other stuff. And then there were people with the virtual reality goggles on, and they couldn't see where they
Couldn't see
were. They
anything.
thought they were in the shopping mall and they were actually in a dungeon. Like it, there's levels where
Yes.
it's like it's not your fault.
Right.
This is actually just what you've been dumped into, and until
Right.
someone can get you to kind of switch the goggles off, or they run out of battery, or you take them off, or they glitch or something, and you're like, oh, that's weird. I saw this thing, I saw this reality behind this reality. Which one's the real one? It's like, which one do you think is the real one? Like maybe neither of them are real. Like we've we've kind of been sleepwalking or paying attention to, the wrong things. But
It's
really
not
what's
always
been
our
going
fault.
on is, yeah, we've been distracted. And it's our fault because no one can undistract us except ourselves. Yeah. But it's not our fault because we didn't do it. We didn't choose it. Like this was put upon everyone. This is how this whole thing was deliberately set up to get people. So it's not your fault because you didn't choose for that to happen. But that's not going to empower anyone. Like it is your fault because you're the only one that can fix it. So you've just got to go with that and go, well, even if someone else did all of this to me or convinced me to do it to myself, I'm still the one that signed on the dotted line, which means I'm the only one that can pull myself back out of it. And so rather than it's not a case of blaming people for not and blaming yourself, because that's what it comes down to, for not seeing it and not being aware. And it's about, well, it's about empowering yourself to say, well, I'm the one that can shift this. No one else is going to do it for you. Even if they could want to do it for you, it's not possible. No one can get you to see what's actually going on until you do it for yourself, which is why doing like the work that you and I do with people, we work with people. We don't work for people. We don't go in and do all this stuff for them because
You can't.
if you were in a really bad state, like really debilitated, or there was some reason, what like with pain, or you're very young, or you don't like, there are reasons why you would do things for people to get them to the stage where they could do it for themselves. But
Right.
You and I know that there's nothing you can do for another person except get them to the point where they can do it for themselves and then
Right.
hold their hand and support them and hold space for them and be understanding and kick their ass when they need it and be there for them while they do it for themselves because it's
Absolutely.
the only way it goes.
Well, it's interesting because I wanted to ask you about this. It's so funny that you should bring this up because this is exactly, of course, I had another inner being session in the shower. It's like always happens. And I
Yep.
started to reflect on this and I wanted to ask you, I wonder if this is a female feminine thing or if it's all around. Do you find yourself feeling responsible for others? I don't want to say responsible as in to fix it because you just pretty much said that of course that's not where we're at.
Yes.
But I find myself seeing very clearly patterns
Mm.
that I feel like could be so easily shifted if they're just seen and a new perspective is given. And it's like, true. And that's how I do my work. When I work with clients, that's absolutely what happens. It's usually
Mhm.
like, oh, wow, I just saw that differently. I feel different about it. And then they move on, right? Then they've got the tools they need to do what they're going to do. So there is
Mm.
a part of, assistance that someone like you or me can be to people. But
Mm.
I started to realize that how do I say this? I've had some struggles with the fact that what is the savior mentality?
Mm.
I find myself really wanting to intercede and say things or bring things up. Like I was having a great conversation with a new friend, and we talked for a long time, and it was not an official session by any stretch of the imagination. And thankfully, he was very open to anything I had to say. But I saw a pattern, and I brought it up, and he was like, "Oh my God, I didn't even think of that." And then
Mm.
it made a difference. And then it set him on a new course. It was painful. He had to go process it, but it helped him. So my
Yeah.
question to you is just as another what do we call ourselves? Just way shower, service provider, helper, whatever you want to call us.
Yeah.
How do you handle that when you're just in an everyday, ordinary situation? I know there are people out there just like us that are always helping people. Where's the
Mm.
line that you draw? Because I've
Mm.
noticed that just recently, I think that I've offered up, maybe some of these perspectives, and then poof, someone vanishes. They're acquaintances. They're not, and I'm thinking to
Yeah.
myself, where's the line there? I was curious as to what you thought about that. Because I know
Mm.
you're the same as me when it comes to you see patterns.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
And
you
and
can see. Yeah, go ahead.
the responsibility that you have when you can see a pattern in someone that's causing all sorts of mayhem in their life and pain and suffering and they haven't asked for help and you can't find a way to point out the pattern that wouldn't be just blunt, like smashing their car door with a hammer. Like,
Right.
it's you it does they haven't asked for help and it doesn't come up. And so there's part of me that's got a blanket policy which I don't really follow. But I have this blanket policy of, well, if someone hasn't asked for help, I can't do anything because I know that if I was to do anything, it won't work anyway. Because I've tried that. I've fallen down that path. I did that years and years ago, wanting to help everyone, wanting to help people, and kind of getting permission, but not doing the work, just like seeing that they need it. And
Hmm.
so doing the thing that would help, but it does nothing anyway because they didn't actually ask for that help specifically. And so there's that.
Right.
But there's also this bit in between where you're like, you can, how can you bring it up? How can you, and this is where you said you start to edge into it, you start to try and bring it up, and they're just smoke.
Well,
They're
no,
just,
sometimes I bring it up and I don't because a lot of communications for me goes on between or voice messages,
yeah,
back and forth and in conversation and then I see something and I might say it and then it's like, oh, the person kind of goes quiet and I'm like, okay. I don't
Yeah.
even know. That's what I started to bring forward is, how do we do that? I mean, in this case with the friend, with my new
Mm.
friend, we were having very open conversation and we kind of said, hey, we feel like we're going to make some progress on ourselves by talking to each other. And it was almost like we set that up ahead of time. So in that
Yeah.
particular case, that seemed pretty clear cut. And if
I'll
for
tell you.
some reason I had hit a sore nerve or something had happened where he felt he had to go away and do a lot of work and didn't contact me or whatever, it would be
Mm.
like, I wouldn't have felt like that was my responsibility, like I crossed the line. I would have felt more like, hey, let go of
Yeah.
that and let him go do what he's got to do. Um,
Yeah.
I guess I'm getting so down to the nuance of that because the responsibility, that's the other question I wanted to ask you because I mean, like, this is some of the self introspection that's been going on as I'm slowing myself down is
Yeah.
when you know that you've come here to help people. I
Mm.
am here to help people. That's why
Mm.
I'm here. I did, and I was told that a long time ago, and I didn't even really pay attention. I didn't
Yes.
listen. But I'm
Yes.
here for more for the collective than the individual experience. So when you know this,
Mm.
how do you navigate like not it's not a savior situation. It's not
Mm.
like you feel like you're here to
But it
save
can be.
everybody.
But it can be.
Okay.
It can be. So it's a
Okay.
slippery. So it's a
That's what that's what
that's a
I'm
slippery spot, right? You're like, so now you're going to be saving everyone, right? And so, I mean, the way to keep out of the savior mentality is not to care. You actually don't. You actually don't care, and it's not like you. I mean, care's the wrong word, but we're using
yeah.
English, so here we are.
Explain.
But it's yeah, you don't have any skin in the game whether they take on your advice or not.
Okay, yep.
Because if you do, then the little demon that's still sitting on your shoulder, sitting on their shoulder, hanging around, trying to like knock you off balance, whatever, and we're just saying demon, but anything, right? The thought form,
Right.
the thing that's still trying to knock you off balance will deliberately make sure that they don't take your advice just to bend you out of shape and knock you off balance.
Right.
So
It's
you
your
can't,
blind spot.
so you have to be, you are invited to be immovable, like you said, like just can't be knocked off balance. And so the savior really wants to help and save someone, but if they don't take the advice, they're going to go in again. They're going to talk to their family. They're going to call a friend. I'm really, like just, no. No, that's a
Right.
whole trap. That's a whole trap to knock you off balance.
Right.
Or you get angry because they didn't take your advice or that. No, you're there to help and you're offering help. And if they're not interested in it, that's okay. No problem because you're still totally in balance and then it's much more likely that they will take your advice. But there's another layer in here where there's you were talking about, giving not so much giving advice, but just pointing out that you can see something in a situation and people maybe don't take it very well or they take it personally or they and that's okay. Like we've
Mm-hmm.
all got that. That all happens. But there's a level of interaction and communication where we just have to fucking get over ourselves and be adults in here. Like, and I
Right.
mean adults,
Right.
because a lot of people are adults in age and adults emotionally sometimes. But when you hit that trigger point, you're a 5-year-old again. You're in the sandpit and you're throwing a clod of mud at someone. Like you just, and we've all got these spots, right? When none of us are perfect like that. We've all got bits that we need to work on. And when you get in these situations where stuff like that happens, when people get bent out of shape, when they ghost you, when they vanish and they don't come back, when they throw a big tirade at you because you, something else in it, it's like, if I did that to my wife, we'd be divorced.
Right.
Like, and look, I'm not married to you, and that's fine. But do you think that's how adults actually communicate with each other? Like, I mean, real adults. If you
Right.
imagine we're ascending to some ninth dimensional, 12th dimensional, hey, we're going to go back to the halls of Amenti, we're going to be outside of here. You really think people talk to each other like that outside of here?
No.
So what's going on with you in the moment? Now, I'm not throwing any shade on you, and I'm not saying you can't talk to me like that. I'm not saying you shouldn't talk to me like that. I'm saying, who's even talking? Is that you? Is that 5-year-old you? Is that 3-year-old you? Is that 14-year-old you that's still bent out of shape about something that happened with, like, because that's not the way adults talk to each other. That's not the way respectful beings deal with each other. They
Mm-hmm.
don't ghost each other. They don't cut each other off. They don't shout at each other and have like, no, that's not what's going on. And we can say to ourselves, oh well, we're only human. No, sorry, we're past that. We're past that. If I did that with my wife, I'd be gone. We're
Right.
only human, the two of us, but she wouldn't put up with that shit. And I'd be mortified if she did. So why do you think if you couldn't do that with your most loved one, why do you think you could do that to anyone else
I'd
and
like
get
to
away?
I'd like to interject something here though that you have to understand, Hamish, is that you and your wife have a very healthy relationship. You don't
Yeah.
understand how many relationships would put up with any kind of behavior. They wouldn't
Mm,
be gone because they don't know how to draw boundaries and they don't know how to say what they need to say, or they don't respect themselves enough to be treated certain ways. So you have to remember you're a little bit from I look around at 90% of relationships that I've seen, at least, through the course of this experience of the last 10
mm,
years. And
mm.
that's going to change. I mean, you're a very good
It is
model.
changing.
You're a
It is
very good
changing right
model of
now.
how that
Yeah.
is supposed to be.
But it comes back
But,
to communication. That comes
right?
back to communication, like actually saying, actually in the moment, not having a hissy fit and not ghosting and not like none of that. Just actually open your mouth and say what you feel. And if that's going to offend the other person, then but if everyone's just opening their mouth and saying what they feel with no judgment and saying, well, we might as well get it out in the open because it's all about to blow up anyway. So this is this is how I feel, and I don't even know why. It's probably not even you that's doing it. It's probably coming up from inside me, but this is what's going on at the moment. Do you think we can talk about it? And then the other person does the same thing. And rather than trying to attack each other, you're just laying your cards, you're just emptying your pockets and putting them on the table and going, well, fuck, look at this. Or how about look at that? Or look what you've got in your pocket. Yeah. Wow, look at this ball of fluff I found in my pocket. That's really manky. Like I don't know where that came from. It's actually being vulnerable enough to go, I'm not scared in this situation that you're going to pull me apart or that you can pull me apart. So I'm just going to unload how I'm feeling, which has got probably nothing to do with you, and let's see where that goes. And that's the issue that we've got is we get taught not to openly communicate in school and like we get taught about deception. We get encultured away from open communication with each other, and not like non-violent communication. Not it can be violent if you want. Like I don't mind that. It's just truthful. It just needs to be truthful because you're never going to find what's hiding in the shadows unless you're truthful.
Okay, well, all right. So now along those lines, because really what we've done is we've moved from what I was thinking of as more like, I want to say those of us light workers, and many of them are watching because that's a lot of the people who end up watching our content are people that do this kind of work or are conscious of this and are conscious of how they really feel. They're here to help other people.
Mm.
When we're in that space of trying to help other people, it's a little bit different than us having conversations. This isn't, I guess what I'm trying to say is for me, this isn't like a personal relationship kind of thing because most of the people, like, and I know you weren't personalizing it, but what I'm saying is most of the people in my life that I am in partnership with in any shape or form, we do exactly what you said. We pull
Yeah.
out the dust bunnies and we compare and we're like, hey, you said this and I know you didn't mean that. What are you dealing with? What am I dealing with? We all are
Mm.
helping each other. I guess
Yeah.
maybe I was thinking a little bit more along the lines of the overall, and you did answer that, in terms of like it's a very slippery slope when you know you're here. When you,
Yeah.
it's kind of like I know that everything that I've been training for is during this period of time. But
Yeah.
I can say that for me personally, I'm always willing to throw myself under the bus and talk personally about me. But I want everyone that's listening to know I'm not talking about me as much as I'm really trying to help anyone that's out there that we're holding the light out there in our communities for a bunch of people. And I know that you might not be making videos, or maybe you are making videos, but it doesn't matter. You're doing the same work I'm doing in a different way. Those of us that are here, we're here to help during this process. And
Mm.
I guess the crux of that, where are we at, how are we supposed to move forward in this, is how do we do it responsibly without interfering. And
I've got,
I think that you hit something really important, and that
mm,
is, if you find yourself seeing patterns in another person, if you gently approach them with maybe questions like, "Oh, why do you think this is happening?" Or, in other words, you try to help them see it. Oftentimes, my friends will be very happy to get my perspective. They're like, "Okay, just tell me what you see." Because they trust me. I think
yeah.
it depends on how someone trusts you. If they
Mm,
trust you and they give you the perspective, then I think you hit the nail on the head. If they
mm,
take the perspective and run with it and do something with it, then fine. But don't be attached to them doing it. So don't chase them down. Don't call their mom. Don't,
no.
don't get involved and make sure that they're following your advice and all that. You let it go.
Mm. And the super annoying answer to it is you pay attention.
Well,
You just pay
bring
attention
it. Bring it.
because I had this happen. Like I don't reach out and like call people. I don't reach out and message people like for no reason. Like I mean, we message quite a bit, and I'm not someone who just writes a hi, how are you? How's it going? Just checking in. Like that. That's not me. Like I just don't do that. But there was someone that I did that with twice, 2 days running this week. I mean, I don't do that, right? But I was paying attention. And so while I was holding my phone, someone said something, not someone, but it just came up. It went, "This is what you need to do." I went, "Okay, I will." And I did twice. Like very out of character for me. Actually, I did it with two people this week.
Wow.
So three times. And and I don't know if it made any difference or not. Like I'm not saying I helped any situation with them particularly or not, but I was paying attention and I didn't go, "Well, I mean, that's not me." Hamish wears a cowboy hat and like kind of walks around with boots on. I mean, I don't wear boots anymore at all, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Like Hamish doesn't write messages like that. I just didn't even enter into any sort of fantasy around that at all. I just heard, this is what you need. I didn't even hear it. What I got was, this is the thing, this message, like this message to that person now. That's what I got. I got the whole package just dumped on me. I went, all right, I guess that's what I'll do. And I paid attention, and I trust that it was the correct thing to do in the correct moment. But that's not something I would usually do. Like we just said, don't call their mum, don't chase them up, don't do that. It's like, yeah,
But
that's a good thing to live by, but also pay attention.
we have the
And
name of the video title is Pay Attention for sure.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
that is the answer to everything right now.
it is. It really is. And you can tell when the thing you're paying attention to is just putting money down the drain. Like because you're paying attention, right? Your currency is going somewhere. You're paying someone when you're doing that. Who are you paying? What are
Yeah.
you paying attention to? You know when it's money down the drain. Like the Facebook scroll is money down the drain, unless you pick up your phone or you're not even holding your phone and something, you just get the whole package, turn on Facebook, open Facebook and just see what comes up. You're like, why? I don't even know why I would be doing that. That's ridiculous. I'm not doing screen time at the moment. I'm not But, it's when it comes to you as the fully formed thing, like, when it's you talking to you, you go and you open Facebook and for some reason you start scrolling and you don't know why. And there you see the funeral notice for the friend's mother or someone that you had no idea had happened. And you're like, oh, wow, that's a bit of a tricky situation for them. I haven't spoken to them in ages. I should probably give them a call and see how they're doing. It's like that's how it works when you pay attention, but you've got to allow yourself to get slow enough and quiet enough to hear those
Right.
messages when they come in because they're not voices and
No.
they're not directives and they're not people and they're not. It's a fully formed 360-degree surround sound package that just gets dropped on you.
Yes.
And if you can't interpret that because you're in 25 different
Distracted.
directions at once, being
Distracted.
distracted,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it
Right.
won't, it'll go through and out the other side and gone. Yeah.
I gotta tell you, as I'm listening to you say all that, I'm realizing that that is the flow that I'm in. And thank you for confirming that for me because that's how I live my life.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, most of my direction is very focused on this bigger picture and not the smaller picture. You know,
Mm.
lots of plates spinning at one time. Um, but the inner being just tells you where to be, when to be. And since I've gotten into this new posture of, okay, I'm in my lotus position and no one's going to blow me over and I'm going to stay listening to myself. Like I had an experience, I've said this before, I think that when I wake up, I feel like I'm slamming back into my body. I'm just like, oh, it just feels horrible. And
Mm.
immediately this morning, my inner being's like, get your Hemi sync music and just put your headphones on and just don't even give it any attention. Don't go into
Yeah.
the feeling of it. Yes, we've been here before. We don't need to wallow in it. Let's just put that music on and go into that cocoon and that bubble. And as soon as I did that, I felt surrounded by warmth and comfort and myself and my soul. And it just changed everything.
Mm.
And that's the kind of stuff that's happening to me now. And what's so interesting about it, and this is that whole slowing down. I know someone, and I hope he's watching. He will always say, "You got to do what you got to do when you got to do it. You just do what you do when you do it," and all of that. Just keep on.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree with that. As long as you're listening to that, it's an inner knowing, it's an inner sense. And I'm going to credit that hemisync music. I mean, someone else said that they heard this again from somewhere else, unrelated to me. I brought it up last night. My dearest friends, I love Jan and Michaela. Michaela is the one that sent it to me just for me to try it out, and I actually bought a whole album today of the music. It is, I'm telling you guys, it is such a great tool. It's so helpful if you get a really good high quality one that you can trust. And I really, after having just listened to some of this music, just really gets me in that centered space. And once a day, I just put it on 10,
And
15 minutes.
use your discernment.
Yes.
Listen,
How
pay
does it?
attention.
Yeah,
Go
pay
put
attention.
that put the 5 albums up in front of you and go, which one's in alignment? Or one of them could
Yes.
be the dark controllers putting weird frequencies into like we've all been there, right? Yeah, that's correct. So bring up all the albums, look at them and go, are any of those in alignment with me? Maybe none of them are.
Well, and
Okay,
you can test
don't
them.
worry about it.
You can
Yeah,
test them. And this,
exactly.
and I,
But
and
you
I'm
but
not,
you won't
mm,
even need to. Your higher self doesn't need to listen to them though. That's the
that's
trick.
true.
The testing them is your conscious brain going, I know what I'm listening to. You have no idea the frequency difference between one ear and the other. Like
But you
you
know how it feels to you.
no.
Trust me. You
Oh yeah.
know how
Oh
it
yeah.
feels. That's why I said
Yeah.
you can test it. And
Yep.
I'll tell you what, you would not find me on YouTube listening to any of those binaural beats or anything. I'm just not going
Mm.
to do it because I don't know where it's coming from. This
Yep.
particular company just only creates them. They don't create them. It's them. We don't have all
Clean.
these people just throwing. And then hey, Everyone has
Yep.
to try for themselves how it feels for them. But
Exactly.
the only reason why
Exactly.
I say that, it's not like I own stock in the company or anything. I don't have a affiliate link or anything, but
Yep.
it made such a difference in my inner being brought it to me.
Yeah,
My inner
exactly.
being brought it to me it was a
That's how
gift
you
to
know.
me because that's what I needed in order for me to go inward. So when I woke
Mm.
up and I was like, it was like all of a sudden it's like that particular sound just absolutely puts me back in my center. So we need, I don't want to say we need, a lot
Mm.
of times there are helpful tools that can help
It's
us
helpful.
remind us.
Helpful. Yeah, yeah. The brainwave stuff, the binaural beat stuff, the hemisync stuff. And if you're really suspicious about it and you just can't find anything that actually matches, probably on your computer, on your laptop for sure, but on your phone, absolutely for sure, because I know they exist. You can download an app that's a frequency generator, and you all you have to do is look up the frequencies and go, all right, theta state frequency is this. So then you're looking for 4 hertz, let's say. What you're looking for is 4 hertz. And so you put it into the frequency generator and it'll put 400 hertz into one ear and 404 hertz in the other ear. And it creates a 4 hertz state in your brain and you're in a theta state. That's how all this stuff works. So if you don't trust any of that other stuff and you can't find an album and you just don't want to go into it, but you're interested, just download a frequency generator and just play the raw frequency because
Wow,
it,
that's
it will have the same effect. I
right.
mean, I've been mucking around with this stuff for, I don't know, well over 10 years, playing around with different things around it and the binaural beats and all of that stuff.
Right.
And there are very hijacked versions and there are very, very, very good versions out there that are totally in alignment. And it is such a great tool to help reset. I don't talk about it a lot because it's one of those tools. It's like tarot cards or pendulums, or some
Right.
people music and sound, it works really well for them, and some people it doesn't. So if it comes to you, it comes to you. But like I've used a lot of that stuff over the years, and it is very beneficial when it's beneficial. It's
Right.
it's here to help reset your baseline.
Well, and again, this is something that I share just because my inner being brought it to me and I found it really helpful. But it's like you said, everyone has something different. And that sounds like amazing, for people that have that kind of interest and it can be anything. It could be yoga. It could be
Yep.
whatever your inner being is drawn to. Again, boy, it goes right into that pay attention
Mm.
because you'll be brought whatever tools you need to stay in that space. And honestly, I don't know, everything in my inner being is telling me, like, especially right now, that the biggest message to get out there to everyone is how important it is to get into that place where you make the decision you're going to stay stable. I'm
Yeah.
an emotional generator in human design. I have an open G center, which means I pretty much can feel all people's personalities and try them on and feel what it feels like to be in their shoes. And I am a manifester, or a generator, a manifesting generator, which means I'm supposed to let things come to me. I'm just talking about the overlay that I got, which, I'm
Mm.
working with here at this point. And
Yeah.
what I have found is that when you, and oh my God, I forgot what I was saying. I just I don't remember what I
Letting
was
it
saying.
come,
Huh?
letting it come to you, just allowing
Oh,
it to come
well,
to you.
allowing it to come to you, but there was something else that I was going to say about that. Oh my gosh. What the heck? All right, I'm not even going to let it bother me because it'll come back to me if it's important.
It'll come
Um,
back. It'll come back.
but I was talking about the major message, the major thing that I wanted to communicate is how important that base center is.
Yeah, immovable,
Right. And
totally immovable.
yeah, and the reason why that is so important is because if you don't set that intention, I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
I'm an emotional generating. Okay. So
Mm.
up and down, up and down. I've been up and down my whole life. That
Yeah.
means I'm one of those people that, some people might just say I was manic or whatever. What is that, bipolar? But
Yeah,
it's emotional. It's an emotional roller coaster. It's been a fun ride for some people that know me. But
yeah.
but we're moving into new time and new energy, and that new energy is about, it's not it's not that we're like this by any stretch of
No,
the imagination, but it's
no.
like we're not whipping around like in a roller coaster car going up and down and side to side and loop to
Yep.
loop and everything. We don't need to
Mm,
be in that space anymore when we get to the space where we don't need to be in that space anymore. And I
yeah.
think those energies are available to us right now.
Yeah, much more available than I've ever seen them before. And I know it's not just me because people who I'm doing sessions with, um, I can see that it's available to them much faster, much stronger, and much clearer than anyone that I was
Yeah.
doing sessions with before. And I don't think that's me. I don't think it's coming through me. I don't like that's their connection. And so it is much more available. And it's that space where there's there's not even a microsecond. There's not
Hmm.
even a hair's breadth in between having like knowing the thing to do and doing it. Like there's no separation at all. It
That's
just hit and you're already doing it.
that's the greatest thing I've heard. Yes, that's what it feels like. It's just
Yeah.
there's no, it's just you know what to do and you're doing it. And
Yeah, there's no
that's the flow.
deliberation. Yeah, there's no think about it. There's no maybe I should. What will that? You just like there's not even a thought about it. It just comes in and you're doing it already. Nothing separates those two things. And when you're in that space,
Yeah.
like that's where miracles happen when you're in that space.
Well, all right. So let's just change the topic real quick to um let's talk about the energies for February.
Mm.
Because we've just talked about something that's available to people. Um, what do you think's been happening? We had a really turbulent January. I don't know anyone that came out of January like saying, "Oh, everything was frozen." Everyone was like, "Oh my God, I feel like I just got out of a tornado." And I don't have the great analogies like you do, and a couple of other my good friends do. But sure, you could come up with something. We went through it in January. Does
Mm.
February feel different to you?
Yeah, it does because it feels to me like what's available in February was also available in January, but it was very hard to find. It
Okay.
was like that equilibrium that we're talking about, where you're saying we're not flatline, we're still like this, but it's balanced. We've got total balance, like we're on the tightrope, and it's still kind of rocking around, but we're just rock solid, totally in balance with
Right.
everything that's going as it moves. Like not well imbalance here, but when you're talking about your family, you're in balance, but when the money comes in, wow, you're gone. Like, no, just imbalance. The whole thing imbalance. And so that was available in January, but it was
Not for
pretty
me.
tricky. Yeah, it was
Not for me.
really hard to find it, like really hard. But and I feel like in February, it's much more available
Right.
and you still have to go looking for it because that's just some sort of weird quirk about this whole place where we are is things don't usually get delivered to you unless you are very open in your posture. And I would say none of us are really that open all the time. Like very few of us can be so open that it just comes in. Like we usually have to ask. You have to ask the question. You have to go looking. You have to, and so it's there
Right.
in February. It's there, and I imagine it feels like in March it will be even more available. So it's like as the crazy ratchets up, because if you were looking out into the outside world, hey, the crazy's ratcheting up, right? We've got World War something over here. We've got farmers rioting over there. We've
I don't
got like
even
you
know.
name it. We've got it going on. It's and some people are cheering, and some people are cringing, and some people are doing both. And none of that's really to do with us. Like if you're in that situation, then yeah, it's got something to do with you and you're dealing with it how you deal with it, just like everyone. You put where you are for a reason. But if it's kind of like most of us, where we're just observing all these situations, the crazy is going to get crazier and it's probably going to come in closer to home as well. And as
Mm,
that happens, that ability to be rock solid, have equilibrium,
yes.
and just tap into that, that is going to get easier and more available. And so it's going to be a very, very clear choice. What are you choosing? Are you choosing mayhem or are you choosing equilibrium?
Very, very well put. That is very well put. Yeah, and I was gonna say when you were talking about that, it just brings up my idea of that snow globe, that the snow globe theory that my higher self kind of showed to me, and it's like you got it for me. It's like I become very aware of when something is my snow globe and when it's not.
Yeah.
And what you're basically saying is, hey, the snow globes might be getting closer to you,
Oh
and
yeah.
you
Oh
might
yeah.
even find yourself in a couple of snow globes. But because you understand where you are and who you are and when you are, like, where are we, and you're paying attention,
Mm-hmm.
you should be able to very, I want to say, easily hold your ground. And
Yeah.
then that energy ripples out to others around you that you feel
Yeah. That's
steady and stable in the middle
that's
of.
perfect. That's perfect. So don't go jumping into other snow globes just because you think, oh well I need to and I should be and I or it's like no, they might come in and if they're pertinent to you, they'll probably overlap with your snow globe and you'll be able to bounce in between. But really, like you need to be where you are, paying attention and dealing with what you're dealing with in the moment, in the flow. And like we said at the start, simple, not easy.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to claim easy to any of this because that being in the flow and doing what you need to do could look like going bankrupt. It could look like a major tragedy in the family. It could look like energy
Divorce.
is still going to yeah, energy is still going
Yeah.
to unfold and it's not going to be easy, but if you're paying attention, your path through it will be simple. Not should be simple, it will be simple and it might hurt like hell but it will be simple. You will know what to do. It's just, are you going to do that or are you going to do something else?
And what is available, I feel, it just came to me, is that no matter what the situation seems to be on the surface, when you're aligned with your inner being understands. Number one, it's a movie line. Number two,
Yeah.
you're headed to a place where, and I say a place, a state of being, it doesn't
Mm.
matter. We talk about ascension, we mean awakening, we mean a realm or an
In a,
existence that does not include as much limitation and interference and things like that, when we get to that space, we're going to see that that was really an illusion anyway. So it may seem surreal. Like,
mm,
so people might not have to experience a lot of pain because they feel it's surreal.
yeah.
And it feels more dreamlike as we move out of the things that are not preferred. So,
Agreed.
at least that's
Yeah.
how I'm feeling. Even like something as small as pain in my body somewhere, it's almost really easy for me to just sort of transcend it and just not pay attention to it. Now we're talking about paying attention or not paying attention, but
Yeah.
knowing that that is, I mean, not talking about something that's like serious and let's just ignore it. But I'm saying
Yeah. Yeah.
you can let go of some of the things that might have been painful to you before and become a big huge focus like, oh my god, my arm, when you're just
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah, all right, I'm fine. And
Yeah.
it's more,
Yeah.
it's
And
the
that
power.
and that's perfect because I feel like February is bringing that home in a really big way. What you said just there was just because you knew the story yesterday doesn't mean you know the story today. Like
Good
this
point.
thing is flipping and shifting and slipping and sliding and changing up really quickly and sometimes multiple times a day. So don't try not to fall for the trap or the trick of, well, I know what this is because I've been through this for the last 20 years. No, you knew what it was for the last 20 years. You don't know what it was today.
Right.
Think you know what it is, but is that an augmented reality? Has reality shifted around you, but you're still in some sort of overlay of some past thing. So just it's like seeing what's really there, or just checking, just checking the overlays, checking the boundaries, and going, yeah, the sore knee, the funny shoulder, the bad relationship I have with some person at work, the like all of that's been like that for over a decade. It doesn't mean that's what's going to happen tomorrow because things are really like squirrely at the moment. So
Dimensionally
yeah,
shifting. And the thing is that it could very well be like you just said, Hamish, that there have been overlays that have been making you see from a particular perspective. And I think that's kind of what I experienced on the almost like February 1. It was like I started to see things. I almost want to say the way they really are, as opposed
yeah.
to the way I always thought they were. And it was
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, it's like putting glasses on for the first time and looking up at those trees and seeing, how you can see the really good defined leaves
Have
and
they
all
been there the whole
that.
time?
They've been
How
there
long?
the
How
whole
long has it been
time.
like that? Yeah,
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 yeah. And that's the feeling you get. It's like when you put a pair of glasses on, you know that that's looking like that, and you're just getting to see it for the first time. That's the feeling I'm getting with a lot of these. That's why it says slowing down. And as these situations come up, and you watch them, and you look at them, and you feel into what this is, you're going to see something clearly that you might not have seen before. It's available to
Mhm.
you if you just allow yourself to not just fall into that automatic programmed. This is just the way it
Yep,
is. This is the way it
yep,
always is. It's never going to change, right?
yep, yep. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exact. And the only reason we fall into those automatic programs usually is because we're in a hurry and we've got too much to do. And so you need to be operating on autopilot because you just can't give focused attention to all of those things. It's like, great. So try dropping them. Try dropping one. How many can you just like shed off from you until you get to the point where you're just there, like you said, like just quiet. You drop the people on the Facebook feed, you drop this, you drop that, and you just get really quiet and then pay attention and go, now what's going on?
You have to
It's really
become
quiet.
really dedicated to not busying yourself.
Yep.
The tendency, especially, like I'm a doer. I am all doer. Do every day. I used to. And moving into a space where what do I really need to do? What I have
Mm.
found is the stuff that needs to get done is getting done. It's getting done in the flow of the other things that I'm doing. But
Yeah.
it's you just start to look at how can I look at my how because listen, we can talk ourselves into the fact that there's just so much to do. I can't get it
Yeah.
all done. I've been there. Oh, have I been there? Um, so how can you simplify things?
Yeah.
How can you
Yeah. Yeah.
simplify things? What things have you got in your life that you're making your life more complicated than it needs to be? I'm like all about simple now. I'm like, okay, how simple can we make this? I eat my dinner at the counter. I come home from the gym, I grab a couple things out of the fridge, and I'm just like, sparkling water in I've got these little things that I eat. And hey, I'm by myself. I don't have a family to sit down and make a dinner with. But what I'm saying is that to me is simple
Mm.
instead of oh my
Yeah.
god, I got to make a meal and I got to da da da. That's not what everyone wants to make simple. Some people don't want to make that simple, but there's things
Yeah.
that you can simplify. A lot of
Yeah. And,
people would do that
and
already and they're listening to this. Go ahead.
yeah, and what you said was perfect in that you get to the point where somehow things you don't know how, but things are just getting done. And that reminds me of the verse in the Tao, the Jing, which says you do like the elevated man, the king, the whatever, the queen, the enlightened person, um, does nothing, but everything gets done. And it's like everything is getting done, but you're not you. You're not actually doing anything. And it's a weird place to be in. And you could read that. And I remember the first time I read it and I'm like, what? Like I didn't get it. And you don't get it until you get it. But it's like it's not even that you're not doing anything. It's like the
Right.
things are getting done through you. Like physically you are doing this stuff around you, but you're not actually doing any of it. And you know you're not doing any of it because you're not even consciously, it's just happening. Somehow you're observing this flow and this stuff. you're not really doing anything. You're just quietly sitting there in your lotus position, but somehow all this stuff's getting done. And it's actually getting done to a better degree and a
More
and
thorough.
a and more thorough, more smooth, more seamless than when you were trying to do it with your mental mind and getting in the way of yourself, tripping yourself over all the time. And when you actually pull back and stop doing what you think you should be doing, but just allow what needs to be done to get done through you, it starts to flow. And you're like, oh shit, I've been doing this the hard way my whole life because I was doing what I thought I was meant to be doing. And we don't have a clue what we're meant to be doing. We got no idea.
But we
We don't
can
pay attention.
listen. We can listen
But
to our inner
we
being, pay
can listen
attention. Yep.
and pay attention. That's exactly right.
Yep.
And
And
when we
listen.
do that, then it
You
happens.
know when to pick up the phone. You know when to, you know
Mhm.
when to eat. I mean, I know when I eat. I know when to drink. It's like, how can you even know what, if you take all these supplements, how do you even know when do you take it and stuff? I just am listening to my inner being. It's like, hey, let's take a handful of pills now. Okay. Not pills, but you know what I'm saying, capsules with herbs.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, go get your green moringa. Okay. It's just, and I liked what you said in one of your videos, do as you're told. I mean, it's like you really are told what to do, not with a
You are.
voice in your head. It's just,
No.
it's a directive. I mean, someone could say, oh, you two are taken over by the bots because you're doing what
Every
you're
time I say
told.
that,
I
every
know.
time I say do what you're told, I have this voice going, yeah, because you're just being run by a cyborg on a computer somewhere else. You're
I
listening to the
had to
voice in
point
your
to,
head. And I'm like, yeah, but
I'm,
it's not like that.
no,
We know
it's
the difference
not.
because we've been following that fucking voice our whole life.
And then,
We've been following
listen,
the AI, the organic AI, the cyborg, the voice to skull guy sitting at White Sands on the computer. We've been chasing that bloody hamster our whole life. You
no,
should do this now. You should do that now. If you don't call your grandmother soon, she's going to write you out of the will. You should. That's what everybody's following. Like everyone's following the voice in their head. It's sure as shit not them. Like
right.
when I'm saying do as you're told, I'm saying do what you tell yourself to do
Yep.
and you know the difference.
Yes, you
You
do. Yes, you absolutely
it's,
do.
it's
I
like
mean,
it's
well, what would you say to people? How can you tell the difference, Hamish? I'm going to ask the question. How do you
okay.
tell the difference?
The voice, the when you have a conversation with yourself in your head, or a conversation with your dead mother in your head, or you know what a voice sounds like in your head when you have a conversation. It's in English, it's in your native language, and it's as if you're having a conversation. You hear, you talk, you
Right.
when you communicate with you, there are no words.
Yep.
There are no pictures. There are no colors. That might come as you build it out, but there's none of that. It is a knowing, and it
Yep.
is a black void. There's no geometry. There's no sparkly stars. It's black. It's like a float tank. It's quiet. It's so quiet.
It's
It
still.
is the void. It is still. It is peaceful. It is calm, and it's do your fucking job. Like it comes at you like bang, like 5 pages, 5 chapters of the Lord of the Rings, boof, drops
Right.
on you.
Right.
And then you go, oh, and you look at it, and as you look at it, you get language, color, sound, movement, and it's a whole scene that plays out. And if you were trying to explain it to anyone, it'd be like trying to talk to them about 10 minutes of a bloody movie, what you've got. They're like, your visions are so clear. How do you see? I was like, I didn't see anything. It was void. It was blackness. It was so calm. But it's just like the calm freight train hits you. It just gets delivered to you. And it doesn't come from the outside in. It comes from the inside out. It wells up
Yes.
inside of you like a like a fountain of water.
Mm.
That's the difference. And so it's not even like chalk and cheese. It's like the difference between chalk and plasma. It's like the difference between chalk and the ocean. Like it's so different, it's stark. They're not even, not only are they not in the same ballpark, they're not in the same cosmos as each other. And no one may have experienced that whole thing that I just described, that void message that comes through. You might not have experienced that, but you sure as hell have experienced the voice in your head that sounds like your mother, sounds like you, sounds like
Oh yeah.
Dr. Carl on the TV, like whoever that voice is trying to portray, right? Your power animal, your spirit guide, your all of that stuff. You know what that sounds like. Go as far away from that as you possibly could. That's pretty close to what we're talking about.
The word that comes to mind, and it's so interesting because anyone that follows any of my content will always hear me kind of disparage myself a little bit because I don't have all the sights and the sounds and the angels and the people walking through the walls and the extraterrestrials showing up. What I do experience and have experienced my whole life is claircognizance.
Yeah.
So it's knowing, it's
You
just
just know.
knowing. And that's
Mm.
the heart center, just knowing. And that is where I feel like I'm not saying I've experienced like the void, but there's no voice in the head. There's not a long running dialogue. It's like as this stuff unpacks itself, it's unpacking from the knowing of the heart. That's the claircognizance, and that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming
And
for our hearts, the knowing, which is conscious. It's not just
yeah,
your brain. I mean, your brain is the part, I don't even know, I can't even figure out like the brain to me is that ego aspect. And I want to jump in real quick one thing with that. You know,
mm.
I've been listening to George Cavasilis,
Cavasset,
Cavasilis,
Cavasset.
just a little
Yeah.
bit. And, you know, he's talking about the ego. And it's like the ego is literally our it's the personality. It's not it's something we operate through, and the brain's there, and you got all this stuff going on in your brain, and it's part of your personality and things of that nature. But this is like this is the it's not wrong. I want to say that I'm
No.
finally understanding it's not wrong to have an
It's just
ego. It
it's an
it
extension of the nervous system.
it is, and it's needed, and it's necessary. If you're in a body, if you're in this realm, if you're in this upside down realm, whatever, it's part of who you are when you're here. But,
Yeah.
but I want to say that as opposed to like the mind consciousness versus the heart consciousness, it's like the heart consciousness has the same, I want to say, has the same capability to know. The mind is not what knows. The mind is what has all the programs in it, right? Am I right?
Uh-huh.
All right. I just want to
Yep.
make sure I'm getting that same thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's and the heart, like when you're saying you haven't experienced the void, I mean, I beg to differ. I think you
Yeah.
have
I think I have too.
because
I just don't pay
because
attention.
the portal to the void is here.
Right.
So where do you think your messages are coming from? Like, yeah, they're coming from your higher self. They're coming from the void,
Right.
where everything comes from originally, eventually. But like it's the beginning, the end, the whatever. Like you are, like I said in that video, you are a portal. You are a Stargate. You've got
Yeah.
many of them in you. They're portals in portals, but this is the one. This is not the one. This is not the one.
Right.
This is a portal. This is a Stargate. Like, but it's an extension of the nervous system, and so there's lots of other stuff going on with the brain mind
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the heart mind or the gut mind. Like
Mm-hmm.
there, and then there's you, and you are not any of them. You're not the heart mind,
Right.
gut mind, or the brain mind, or you're something else again. It
Mm-hmm.
kind of inside all of that, or encapsulating all of that, or whatever. But the the easiest place to find the clearest portal or pipeline back to you,
Right here.
here, right here. And that's why everyone talks about get in your heart, be in your heart. That's why all the wounding happens around the heart. That's why we get taught to build walls around our heart to protect ourselves, because how are you going to connect with the void and yourself if you build a freaking wall around it? You can't.
Wow.
Why would you build a wall around that? Because you were emotionally abused, because you were abused down in your sacral and your root centers. That's the classic place. We start there, and then the abuse just builds up and it cuts you off from yourself.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason for doing it. And so it's terribly traumatic and it's horrific. Like, it's worse than horrific. And if you allow yourself to be cut off from yourself, they won.
Mm.
Don't let them win.
Mm-mm.
What happened to you, whatever it was, is horrendous. Don't let them win. Reconnect with yourself anyway, even though it happened. In spite of what happened to you, go into your heart and reconnect anyway, because then they don't win.
Well, and you return home.
Exactly.
That's the way
Because
home. That's the
all
way
they
out.
can do, all they can do is keep us separated, keep the illusion of us being separated from ourselves.
That's
That's
right.
all they've got. And they can't even do it to us. They have to get us to do it to ourselves. And so all of that stuff that you might have gone through, whatever it was, it only works if they can maintain the illusion that you're separated from yourself. But if you can go back in and find yourself again, get quiet and listen, in spite of all the horrific things that have happened to you, then they don't win and you get to be reunited with you again.
That's right.
And that's the love story.
It sure
That's the
is.
greatest love story. Finding yourself again, finding
Oh,
out that you're always there.
it sure is. I'll tell you what, I never had this kind of feelings when I was in love. Never.
No.
Didn't have this. This is something so far beyond that. And I can't even imagine what comes next if there is, like where we're headed. I can't even imagine because this is the taste of it. This is a taste of that, if we call it the fifth realm, the heavenly realm. This is, the perfected state, the God's, I don't want to use that word, but I don't want to personify it. I really want it to be purely our own creator being selves. But that
Mm,
is the state that we're returning to. And
mm,
I can't even imagine because this is the first time that I've reached the stability point. And listen, there's a disclaimer here. I can't say I'm going to have this every day, but I'll tell you what, I'm committed to it. I'm committed
yeah.
to having it every day. I'm not going back if I can help it. They're going to have to take me kicking, screaming, back. I'm going to have to take myself screaming out of this
Yeah.
piece. Just,
Yeah.
it's too
Yeah. Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too
Because now
important.
you've tasted it.
Right.
You can't be convinced out of it.
Nope. And
Doesn't matter where
there's,
anyone picked you up and dropped you, you go, oh, yeah, but I know where I need to be. And so I'm going to do everything in my power and a few things that aren't in my power to get back there. And you
well,
will not settle for anything less once you've tasted it.
absolutely. And the other thing is too, is that one of the things that's always concerned me about getting to that frequency band is, oh my God, I'm gonna be by myself, because I've seen myself like drift out of relationships where I just sort of outgrew or I shifted to a space that I couldn't relate to people and stuff. And I used to be afraid to be alone and I'm not afraid to be alone anymore. So if I have to shift out of a frequency band and I end up all by myself, then so be it. I literally cannot stop the process of moving more and more into my greater being. And all I can say is I just hope every single person listening to this feels the same way, gets to that place because there's no greater freedom. There's no greater joy. I
Mm.
have been laughing and I have been funny as hell. I'm finding myself saying things that crack myself up. I mean, just natural, authentic, just not
Yeah.
inhibited.
Yeah.
Oh, we're really headed in the right directions, you guys. So when you sit
Mm.
there and you think, "Oh my God, nothing's happening," I hear that all the time. "Oh my God, nothing's happening." Look
Mm.
around you, look at yourself, measure your progress. You cannot tell me you haven't shifted so much in the last couple months,
Yeah.
year, 2 years, 10
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's probably a good place to leave it.
Mm. Yeah. Great conversation.
I always enjoy conversations with you, Hamish. They're always my favorite time of the week, month, year, whatever.
Mm. Yeah. Lots of
So,
fun.
all right. Well, is there anything that you wanted to sum up with here?
Yes.
Okay.
Get quiet, pay attention, and then do your fucking job. And that includes me. I'm talking to myself here.
I know.
Absolutely.
No, that was to me, that was my inner being saying the same thing to me. And that's why I was saluting. I wasn't really even saluting to you. I'm saluting
Yeah.
my inner being. That's the instructions I'm getting too. So,
Yeah.
ah, great. Well, I look forward to talking to you again. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in with us. We really appreciate it. If you made it all the way to the end, wow, you are a trooper. If you like this video, we would appreciate a thumbs up. Share it with a friend. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, we would love for you to. Yeah, and information about Hamish and actually myself, if you are interested in a session, we both do sessions. You can find information in the description below. And until next time, bye.
See you.